here from ActionX. This is What's on the Do, where each and every week I talk about something in TV related. Either that's doing episode reviews or season reviews or just talking about television shows in general. If you clicked on this review, you're obviously here for DC Stargirl Season 1 review. Are you here? Is Stargirl worth it? Has the DCTV trade, has it reached another dead end, or has it reached another high point? Is this worth the binge? And for me, it most certainly is. And if I have to sum it up in one word, awesome. If you're unaware, this will be a spoiler-free review. So the first segment will be just no spoilers. You're fine. You're good. I will be saying... I smell like chocolate for some reason. I'm sorry. I got that weird chocolate smell in my nose. Don't worry. I won't be spoiling anything from the first season of Stargirl. But then we will switch over to the second half, which will be a spoiler-filled section, because I've already also reviewed every single episode of DC Stargirl. It's all on the channel. So if you do decide to go watch Stargirl, then you can also see along the review, see along my conversation about each and every episode. So there you go. You have that as well. But the spoiler-filled one will be more of a continuation of those reviews, as I'll pick up my topics and my conversation on that front. So, but don't worry, if you haven't seen the show, don't worry. We're going to start off nice and easy for you before we delve into the more heavy stuff. But yeah, but again, let's start it off. One sentence review. Is Stargirl worth the binge? For me, Stargirl is well worth the binge. It is probably the best DC TV show I have seen in years. It is... I just don't know how to explain it. I mean, I know how to explain it, but in the abbreviated, like, very dragged on sentence, I can't do it justice. But for me, one of my favorite shows of all time so far, just in general, like just any TV show, is My Hero Academia. It is a show. It's an anime about these teenagers who have quirks, superpowers, that learn to become heroes. There's just something about the generation of young people becoming the next wave of heroes that's always enticed me since I was a kid, when I first watched Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire one back in 2002. There's always just been something about that genre and about that sphere superheroes that is always grabbed onto me. Like, just seeing youngsters, because for me, I'm still young. I'm still 22, going to 23 this October. I'm still fairly young. So I kind of still have some resonance towards that age group of heroes. Where, not to say like Iron Man or Captain America or Thor or Batman or Superman don't even matter as well. It's just that I relate more to like these teenagers, these young adults who are still learning about their powers, who are still learning who they are, as well as having those superpowers. And the thing about Stargirl that like I got really into by... I think from the start, I've always knew, like, this show was something else. Like, this is not... I described it as Stargirl was, like, it's more quality than a television show on average, but it's not a cinematic feat. It's kind of like in that in-between zone, but it works. Like, it feels like a TV show, but sometimes it feels like a movie. And honestly, any TV show that can somehow balance that deserves so much praise. And it's all because of the characters. And I've said this before in every single one of my reviews. It's like, the show could have a very meh story, but if the characters keep the story going, if we're so well interested in these characters and so well depth into this, then the season can go so far. And this was definitely like... It's not a perfect season. I definitely had some critiques throughout when I was doing my episode reviews. I'll say that much. But at the end of the day, this honestly is in my top 15 of all time. This was just so lovable, so engaging, so different. So it knows how to correctly do things, temper your expectations, and then also break your expectation with like something like, oh my god, I wasn't even expecting that. And it's just like, so seeing Courtney become Stargirl, and she's in such a weird position where it's like, it's the typical, she's the new girl in town, like, you know, she has to adjust to many different things, and, you know, that she's not normally used to. And then learning about this potential lineage, learning about, you know, like, superheroes in this other Earth in the larger Arrowverse. Because this still takes place in the Arrowverse adjacent, because after Crisis they kind of Stargirl came about on the new Earth too. But there's no major Arrowverse references there. But I'm just saying as an offhand remark that it is related. But it's been that story of like, you know, a battle of generations that reminds me a lot about My Hero Academia, where it is, we see the older guard, like the, you know, the original JSA, the Justice Society of America, facing up against the Injustice Society of America. It's a battle that like it's about to start passing on to a whole new generation of both heroes and villains, and that reminds me so much of, you know, My Hero, and just seeing that in live action, just seeing the characters like still have their own human problems to deal with, but then also having this bare added weight of responsibility of being superheroes and having these powers is just so enticing, just so well interesting. And you want to know what happens to these characters next. You want to know like what's the next step in their journey, what direction are they going to go to next. And honestly, yeah, it was just such a blast to watch through and through. And yeah, 13 episodes seems like a lot, even though like the time period of like, I remember when Netflix was starting to get popular, that was like the typical binge, like about 13 hours of content. That was the usual time mark. And then people just started saying like, no, this is too much. Like, let's reduce it even further. I mean, 13 episodes. Every episode of season 1 matters. Not a single episode is not for filler. It is all for every episode matters. Every moment in the show matters. Whether that is character building, whether that is relationship building, whether that is story building, whether that is world building. Every episode matters. Every moment matters. And it's so rare to find that nowadays, because yeah, you have so many TV shows like The Flash and Supergirl, Batwoman, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing. You have so many, and I'm just naming the DC ones. There's so many out there that have done so many things, but as you go along, you kind of learn that like some of them are just for filler. Like, is this really worth it? Is this really going to mean in the grand scheme of things? Is it really? Stargirl, at least for now, every episode has mattered like to a T. Like every step of the journey has mattered to seeing Courtney's journey evolve and seeing her change and to become the heroine she needs to be, which is Stargirl. And there's just so much more to talk about. But in terms of the spoiler-free discussion, it's worth it. Like, there's just so much. Like, this is a great entry point for anyone who is not even into superhero. Like, this is just a great show to, like, you don't have to need any context of the characters, of any context of DC characters. You don't. They introduce everything so well. They explain everything so slowly and understandable that even for me, I have had no knowledge of Stargirl, no knowledge of the Justice Society besides a couple scenes in Legends of Tomorrow. Like, I don't know anything about them. And then, you know, getting to see the show, it's like, okay, this is where it's coming from. So just getting to see that was, the whole story, the whole ride so far has been nothing but a blessing. And I highly recommend. It's worth a binge. It's on DC Universe, as long as, you know, things shall make. It's coming to the CW. I think you can still see it on CW.com or the CW app if you still can. It's all there. It's worth it. I think you could watch it for free. I think for the CW.com. So I think you can watch it for free. So there's not really any excuse. So yeah, my final recommendation before we switch into spoilers. It's worth the binge. It's really worth it. It's a fun 13 hours you're going to enjoy. You're just going to be more anxious to see season 2 whenever that comes out next year. So yeah, that's it. That was spoiler free. So go check it out. DC Stargirl, available on DC Universe and on the CW. Go check it out. Remember, if you're going to watch them and then you want some commentary alongside you, I have 13 episode reviews locked and ready to go. They're ready for you to see whenever you want. Okay, we're good. All right. Final warning. 3, 2, 1. Okay, yeah. So some of the CG is a little bit like, it's a little bit long. That's what I meant. Well, that's what I meant when I said like it's above TV show quality, but it's not that great as a cinematic quality. I'll give it credit. The striped suit looks so good, and then you could just notice in certain lighting like, yeah, this is clearly fake. I'll give it that. But then when we got to the Solomon Grundy fight in the finale, it's like, yeah, this is like, oof, this is not this is not good. I mean, it's only minor critiques in that it's only by VFX standards. I get that it shouldn't really affect the quality of the show, but you can't help but notice it. But anyway, like I was saying in the spoiler free section, I was mentioning that this was a battle between of generations, where we were seeing two generations of heroes, two generations fighting each other. Whether that was the OGs versus the OGs, and then the newbies versus the OGs, and now hopefully down the line we'll see the newbies versus the newbies. Hopefully season 2 is smart enough to continue that forward. But I just like I remember like seeing the first episode and just like seeing like we don't even get a glimpse of how the original Justice Society like operated. Like we know like they're heroes, they did like so many amazing things, and then they had this like epic battle between their mortal enemies and they lost. And it kind of set the tone like there are no heroes in this world. Like all the heroes are dead. And it wasn't a grim picture, but definitely showcased like, yeah, if the villains wanted to do something in between that prelude / to the first episode, they could have. There would have been no heroes to stop him. And that was kind of the scary thought, so to speak, about the whole thing. And then when we cut to the present and we realized, oh yeah, everything's fine. You know, everything's going great. I don't know what I was saying, but and then getting to see the new JSA form when that is Courtney picking up the staff, or whether that is her picking Yolanda to be Wildcat, or having Beth. We had to give her Dr. Midnight, and then Rick earning the legacy of his parents. That was all nice and great to see, and then the story's been so properly paced. It's like we got the beginnings, we got the origins, we got the newbies, we got the rivals, we got then the ending, and it's like it was just so perfect pacing. They just paced it so perfectly. Like every story beat happened when it was supposed to, and it worked out. So it just worked out in the end. And when we got to the sheep 2 part, it's like, wow, this is like just going so well. Like it's always hitting the right beats. It's like it's progressing the story in just the right way where it's going great. I couldn't complain much more. But anyway, let's get to the characters. Let's talk about them. Courtney, Stargirl. With her, she is our hero. She is our main protagonist. So the main protagonist needs to have majority of the shine. No pun intended there. She does need to, and yeah, when we saw her in the first episode, we got to see like she's the product of not the product, but like she's dealing with her mom's new marriage, her dealing with her father abandoning her, moving to a new town, leaving the city life behind. It's all so much for her to like eventually, like we got glimpses of her old life via pictures, and that was the good thing about it because I was so tired of like seeing like the main character is moving away. We're seeing like brief snippets of her old life via flashbacks or just like a random cameo. Like I'm always sick and tired of that, but this was so simple to say, here are the pictures. She had a nice good life, and then her mom got married and now she's moving away. That's basically the story, and she's not happy. She's clearly not happy. It's not because of her mom to be happy, but she didn't want to move. She didn't want to be away with her family, from her friends, but her family just saw an opportunity to move to Blue Valley, which is where our show takes place. And then getting there, having her be, of course, the new kid in town, the new kid in school. She's dealing with typical new kid problems where no one wants to be her friend, or she's already entering like dynamics she doesn't even know, and not being able to like figure out like what to do, and having to be classified on day one as the losers table, unaware that this is going to be her future team. And then also, what was I going to say? And then we slowly start to see her like unravel her destiny, getting the staff, realizing her potential lineage, but then having her believe in that lineage and wanting her, and thinking like she is responsible for stopping the ISA, for her avenging the original JSA, for becoming to arise a new generation of heroes. And her stepdad's kind of like being, of course, like the connection between her and the old guard. Was very much like he kind of had to, because like, okay, she's your typical teenager, she's not going to back down from this, so I might as well help her. So they do so, and having her go through the learning curve of like she can't do this alone, she needs a team, she needs to start learning how to rely on a team, She learns through all these lessons as she slowly begins to reopen up, and we get to see shades of who she was before. That helps us figure out like how she's going to be in the future. Where she is a friendly person, she wants to be friends with Yolanda. She kind of tolerates Beth. She wants to get to understand Rick. She wants to try and be a good person. She wants to be a friendly person, but when it comes to it, like, you know, she's gonna have those. She has difficulties in the first half of trying to get any of that because there was just so much she had to deal with, you know. And we didn't really get to see how being a superhero affected her life. It was basically just like a natural flow thing, which could be a critique in my opinion. But honestly, I was so well tuned into the story that like I didn't really mind like if she didn't even have any problems. The one thing I will say about Courtney is that, well, that's not really her fault, but just the writer's fault. Not really the writer's fault, just like circumstantial things, is that her crush with Icicle's son just kind of went nowhere. Like, it's established there was something between them, and then things just happened with the show. And like, that's the whole thing. That I guess that just kind of blown away. I'm just letting you know that off the cover my wagon, but. She still learned through a lot in the second half where her team got angry at her because she was trying to be like, it's so weird. Like Courtney got so cocky that she started thinking like, oh, I can take this on solo. Like, why do we even need a team? And then her team was like, oh, come on, man. Like, you know, we need training too. Like, we're not the leader, the shining leader like you. I mean, come on, give us some time to like figure things out. And I remember seeing that episode, like, oh my god, I feel so bad for Courtney. And then even Beth was insulting her. I'm like, if Beth is insulting you, I mean, you're not really doing the leadership role correctly, Courtney. You really weren't. And then seeing her kind of have her first real defeat on the hands of Cindy, Aishi. And then I think the biggest one of all before the finale was meeting her real dad. And that episode, again, tempered expectations. It readjusted them, and then it broke them. And then we saw who this man was. That gave Corey that final lesson to realize that. Because that was around the time where we figured out that the real Starman wasn't her dad. It was another man. And so realizing that the man she thought was her dad and the man that was her dad both technically, like, not really let them down. Because, like, Starman didn't really like know her, so you can't really let her down. But she had this image of like, I am the daughter of Starman, so I am Stargirl. I am the proper successor. And then having that pulled under her wagon, and then meeting her real father, and at first thinking like, oh my god, this guy does want to be in my life. He does want to change. He does want to try to make up for lost time. But then he doesn't. He just was there to like get this piece of jewelry off her to pawn off, make some money, have another attempt to like make it big. And this guy was such a complete asshole that like he literally gave up a second chance with his daughter just for money. And then through and through, Pat was there supporting her. And when she realized like Pat is your real father, it's always been him. That was just the sweetest moment I saw. Like when we saw in the 11th episode and then the finale, where we saw Courtney finally realize in her head like, Pat is my father. He's been there always when it was helping her as Stripe or being just a fatherly figure. Like, he's always been there. And seeing that change in her, like, having her, like, fully open up to him compared to when we started the series where she was cold to him. She didn't want nothing to do with him. It just came such a long way, and it just came in such a sweet way that I honestly, like, it warmed up my heart a little bit. So speaking of which, Pat is such an underdog. Like, you know, he's been through so much in his life, like being a sidekick to a kid and then being a sidekick to a man and then having that man. And oh my god, the funniest moment in the first episode when Starman was going to die. Well, I think he was going to die. And sorry about that, there's a party behind me. But seeing him die, and it's like thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be the next Starman. Like, it's gonna be like a Batman Robin thing. Like, Batman's gonna die. I'm gonna be the next Batman. But he's like, oh no, not you. You're not Starman. There's gonna be another Starman, but it's not gonna be you. And that was like just such the biggest burn. Like, here's a man who's been with you since your childhood, and you're basically telling him, no, you're not gonna be a superhero. And then when we cut to years in the future, where we see him, now turning a turn in his life, like he has found love, he's had a kid, he's inherited a daughter, and seeing him like having like he was wanting to give up the superhero life for good, like just have a normal, basic suburban life, and then things just change. But he handled it so well. Like he does honestly the smartest things. Like he tells Courtney, "This is what it has to be. This is you can't do this, you can't do that. You have this is like he's thinking because he's seen how this goes before. He's seen nothing but death and destruction when it comes to these superhero teams, and he doesn't want to put Courtney through that because she is still just so young." But then it was like his decision, like we need to tell Barbara, I need to tell my wife about the truth about everything because there's gonna be a time where like she's gonna figure out on her own, and she's gonna feel betrayed that it didn't come from the people she loved. And even seeing that briefly backfire, like he took some guts, he took some balls to like even attempt that. But then when it all came to a head and like it all smoothed down, I'm like, oh thank God, everything's fine. But still, I mean, it was a risk. It was like he took a big risk doing that. And, like not that many superheroes would do that in their first, not even month or year of business. Like he did that so fairly quick, and thankfully it paid off. And especially him being patient with Courtney. Like by the time we reached the finale, he just hugged her at the end. It's like he has a proper daughter. He's always had a daughter, and hopefully going into next season, we're just going to see that relationship get tested, but also grow stronger. Moving on to the other JSA members, Yolanda. Yolanda, she's been through a lot. I've said before that Wildcat was my favorite episode of the bunch before Shining Knight came out, and Wildcat was like, holy hot damn, she's been through a lot. And when we saw the flashbacks on her like pre the show, where she was semi-popular, she had a great life going, she had a nice supportive family, she was running for class president, she had a boyfriend in Henry Jr., and everything was going perfectly. And then one day she decides to send a topless photo to him because I don't know why, and like any stupid guy does, he posts it online, and then everyone just knows her tatas. And I'm sorry to say that very loosely, I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. And then just seeing her entire life shamble, and we understand why she's that cold person in the first episode. It's like, oh man, I feel so bad. Like I thought she was just a typical like I just don't want to talk to anyone, but it's like, oh my god, I feel so bad for her. And then her family just basically rejects her. Like she's still their daughter, but they're not really like treating her with honor anymore because like she's already disgraced her body, disgraced her family over just one simple mistake. And I still remember the ending moment of that episode where we saw Yolanda kind of briefly relinquish the Wildcat role because she wants to be Yolanda again before she becomes Wildcat. And then she goes in to talk to her family to kind of like, hey, I need to get back. I need to become the old Yolanda again. I don't want to be the shell of myself anymore because I hate it. I want to get back to where things were before. And her family, even after that speech, the dad was like, no, it's not happening. And honestly, I felt so bad because like usually like in typical TV show, when someone makes that like dramatic speech, assuming afterwards like the parents are like, or the person they're talking to is like, okay, yeah, let's give it a try. Let's see how things go. They're like this, like no. You went too far. Like you publicly showed your body. We can't even go back to church. We can't even do anything anymore because all we're going to be filled with is disgrace from other families. That, hey, your daughter did this. We know the truth. Not true. We know what she looks like. She like that's a private part of your body that you're not supposed to show until a selective group of people. And she did that willingly, and she made that big mistake, and she still didn't do it. But then she had that change of heart. It's like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna be Wildcat because if my family doesn't accept me as Yolanda, I'm gonna be accepted as Wildcat. And then seeing her journey to become to be a better person of herself, and going along with helping Courtney find other JSA members, and her dealing with Henry Jr. again, and then briefly in the finale, seeing her not go from full circle. When we come to the finale, we see her in a different place because she's been through a lot. She saw her ex-boyfriend, despite what he did to her, she pretty much still carried some feelings for him, and he died. And then then briefly seeing Brainwave try to pose as him kind of like was the final straw for her. I was like, no, you can't do this. And she kills Brainwave. That is going to leave a mark. Because killing someone, taking a life is just, it's something that you can't go back from. Because it's just something that, like, I'm going to talk about this more next week in the season 2 predictions video, but like there's a lot of direction that can go with Yolanda next season, but I'm excited for. But they put her in an interesting position that she's ready to move on, but she's going to have this burden on her that she took a life. But how will that turn out? I don't know. Beth is the comic relief. Let's just say that. She is just that nosy, wants to do it all person that is friendly. She's a friendly person, but no one wants to be her friend because she's very talkative. She's very wanting to do a lot of things, and you know, her only real friends are her parents. And sorry, my throat is itchy. I don't know why. I was just scratching it. Even when we saw the first episodes, Beth's parents basically said, like, can you please go hang out with people your own age? I mean, come on. You need to have your own life. You need to have friends. Come on. And then the moment she becomes Dr. Midnight, she gets the goggle, she starts becoming part of the new JSA. And their parents just ask her, hey, yo, where's dinner? You always cook dinner for us. And she's like, I'm busy. And it's like a big fuck you to them. It's like, oh my God, that was just so funny. That was so funny. But honestly, I love Beth. Was just enjoyable. She really was. Her just eventually finding her group, her friends, and then, you know, having an AI and Chuck to always have around was nice. It was fun. It's sweet. And it makes me feel sad that, like, at the end, like, she loses Chuck for a while. Hopefully she'll get him back next season, but she's just a sweet girl. And, you know, honestly, she deserves more, and thankfully she has with the team. So hopefully that just keeps growing stronger next season. Rick was an interesting character. He being like the true legacy of the group, like, you know, him having a real connection to his father, and then becoming that inheritor of his power. Just seeing him kind of change was like, you know, again, being like the broody bully, well, not bully, but like the broody guy who just doesn't care, who just wants to get through the day, who just wants to get home and be alone, and then figuring out what everything was really about, and then having him be more involved, having him slowly open up to everyone, being a little bit more friendly. And sure, his motivation may have been revenge, but even when he had the moment to get revenge against Solomon Grundy, he still doesn't do it. He doesn't pull the trigger. He just accepts the fact, like, he doesn't want to be a monster like Solomon was when he killed his parents. So he said, fuck it, just leave, just go, but never come back. Having that sense of humanity that still, even after all, like, the things like that pushed him into some darkness, you know, he still was able to, like, still realize the good light, and, you know, was able to, like, do the right thing and do the right choice. And that was honestly, that was just like that was smart directioning and on the writer's book, like, just to lean him in. And I don't know, like, I always liked Rick. I always did. Like, you know, hopefully we'll get to see more of him next season, besides just being, like, the legacy. I want him to expand more, but at least in this season they did such a great job with him, and, like, putting him in the right direction where he's in a better place now. And, you know, that's likable. Then there's the villains. I'm grouping in the villains because there's a lot of them. The villains are so well done this season, and I haven't seen such well done villains in forever. Because when it comes to villains, on like the CW shows or anything, like, sometimes you're gonna get the really, really, really great ones. Sometimes you're gonna get the really shitty ones, like Cicada, The Flash, season 5. I'm sorry, actor who plays Cicada. I'm sorry, you sucked. I'm sorry, you were so boring. It's not your fault, but it's just so hard to create villains that are just you know, are just so great and so, you know, interesting, and actually has story. Icicle and Brainwave include, like, Icicle, Brainwave, Gambler, Shiva, and Sportsmaster and Dragon King. They were all so well done, and they were like even though like not all of them got their own like flashback, like so Icicle had a flashback when he lost his wife, and you know he swear like he's gonna create a new America for her, and Brainwave wanted to like be able to change people and turn them into like actually modern people instead of like disgraces, like as I think he would phrase it as. And you know they were just all of them were just so they're all so likable, but of course in that evil sense, like you learn to hate them, but you love to hate them, and that's something that a lot of shows can't really do with their villains. And all their fight scenes were just so well done. Like they choreographed their fight scenes to fit their power scheme. Like Icicle freezing the field, Brainwave using his telekinesis, Sportsmaster using every single freaking sports item in the book. Even Gambler was just like sitting in the chair, like I'm doing right now, just computer hacking away. Like thankfully I'm not with a cat, which mine is downstairs. Just seeing all that, just making like the ISA just such. Are they the best villains ever? Not at all. But I do feel like they're the most likable villains ever. I feel like I enjoy them fairly freely. I always was curious to see more of the villains, and that's such as a very rare feat to do, because like you can't always get a villains like. You get the villains where it's like we are forced to get their backstory. But then we get the villains where you want to see their backstory. You want to know how they came about. And you want to know how they became the person they are currently. You always want to hear that. And especially from Icicle, like, you know, he's had so many layers to him. Like, you know, there are shades of him being good because he kind of likes Barbara. Or he kind of just, like, is a decent father. And then there's this Brainwave where it's like, all he cares about his plans, because like, at first you think like Brainwave, you know, was about to change because of his wife, and then Icicle killed her, or maybe he was, you know, very ready to move on when you know he saw Henry Jr. before his wife died. But no, he didn't care. Like that was all him. Like he only killed them because like they were standing in his plans, standing in his way. It's like if not even your own family can stop you, no one can. Like absolutely no one can. So yeah, kudos to the writers for making these villains such like a great likable feat this season. And you know, it's a shame that the ISA is like technically over, but hopefully, as I'll mention, also my sandal fell off, so I gotta go reach it. Hopefully we'll see more of them next season and in a new light, but who knows. But anyway, I love the villains this season. I really did. They were all so enjoyable. Who else am I missing? I think Justin was funny. Justin was the knight. He was your typical knight man at a time. I think there's more for him to be explored, especially since they introduced a second hero group in the show called the Seven Shining Knights. And even like Pad was part of it, but he was technically just considered like backup. He wasn't really considered like the eighth member. Oh, the Seven Swords of Victory. I think it was funny. I mean, you know, him just being in the background. Like, I knew from the first time we saw him, like, he has something to do. Like, they're paying way too close attention to this guy. And then when we got to really see him in, like, late in the Sheev two-parter, and then eventually in the Shining Knight episode, it was like, okay, there's something more to this guy than meets the eye. And, no pun intended. Been up all day. Yeah, so I really... he was just a funny dude. He was really funny. And then just seeing his random one-lines in medieval times, it was just so funny. So good. Am I forgetting anything about the characters? I think I covered... I mean, oh yeah, I'll mention like Barbara. I kind of feared like for a couple moments that like maybe she was willing to cheat on Pat, which is like... Oh no, please don't tell me they're going to really support this. And then when we hit the finale, it's like, no, she wants to be with her husband. It's like... I don't need this in a show right now. I don't. Pat's son was cool. He was always nice and fun. He was another comedic relief character. He was always funny. Yeah, I think that's everyone of major importance that I remember. I can't remember if I'm forgetting anything, but yeah, through and through, I really enjoyed Stargirl. Like Stargirl is probably going to be one of those shows. Like I would not be against rewatching the season. Anytime soon. I wouldn't be against it. I feel like that would just be a fun, like, oh, how would things, like, would a different context look like? I'm very curious about it. I can't wait to see where next season go. I really can't. But this season was just so awesome. Like, the creative team, Jeff Johns, the showrunners, the writing staff, the cast, they did such a great job of forming, I think, one of the best DC TV shows since, in terms of like an actual superhero show, since The Flash for season 1. I think it's been that long. And the fact they've been able to reach out, maybe even surpass it, in my opinion, is just crazy. It's just so crazy for me to like even think about now, talk about. But yeah, for me, at the end of the day, I enjoyed Stargirl season 1. I think it's one of the best DC TV has to offer right now. Can't wait for next season. And yeah, that was it. Jesus Christ, it took a lot out of me. So, if you're unaware, that's going to do it for me, guys. This has been What's in the Tube from ActionX. If you want to know what we're doing overall, What's in the Tube besides our Stargirl content, we do Doom Patrol Season 2 content. Well, we did episode reviews for them each and every Saturday after a new episode on Thursdays on DC Universe and HBO Max. We wrapped up that episode review series. We're currently doing... well, we've wrapped up the Season 2 review. We're doing the Season 3 predictions. Hopefully next time, barring how fandom comes about tomorrow. So we'll figure it out. And then we also do Perry Mason content. But Perry Mason, the episode reviews usually came out on Mondays after a new episode on Sunday nights on HBO. But that's also wrapped up too. So what comes after that is we aired the Season 1 review. We're doing the Season 2 predictions this coming Monday. So stay tuned for that. But if you only care about Stargirl, you'll be in luck. We still have one more thing to do. Next week, we'll be talking about what I hope to see in Season 2. Predictions, crossovers, hopes, and dreams on Stargirl Season 2. So I'll be back next week to talk about that. But again, if you're unaware, this was What's in the Tube from ActionX. If you want to see more of What's in the Tube, specifically our Stargirl content, please subscribe to ActionX on YouTube.com. Ring the bell for notifications when the next video is live. Like, favorite, share if you want to, but it does help us out in the long run, as well as follow us on social media to be up to date on stuff. And as for you, Stardazers, I'll see you guys next week for the Season 2 predictions video. Also, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Season 1? Are you going to watch Season 1? Let me know all of it. I'm always open to conversation below. And I'll see you guys next week. Until then,